to the Paul W. Caine Foundation's Family Health Series webinar in conjunction with the Terry Performance Group. I am your moderator for today. My name is Keith Terry, and I am just so delighted to bring this panel together. The topic is college readiness, preparing for the future. And we have three dynamite expert speakers, Patricia Gonzalez, who's the Dean of Scholar Support at Jack Kent Cooke Foundation, Ama Appenteng Milam. Please forgive me if I said her name correct. I'm sure she's going to correct me. She is the Program Director for Center for Companies That Care. And Mr. Craig Lynch, CEO of the Youth and Opportunity United. As I said earlier, my name is Keith Terry, and I am the president of the Terry Performance Group. Just a brief commercial. We are a full-service management consulting firm focused on helping companies to increase their value and performance. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mr. Kevin Mott. Kevin is the president of the Paul W. Caine Foundation, and quite honestly, the brainchild behind this series here. And so let me stop sharing my screen so that you can see Kevin. Welcome, Kevin, and take it away.
All right, thanks, Keith. Good morning, everybody. As Keith said, my name is Kevin Mott. I'm the president of the Paul W. Caine Foundation. We are the philanthropic 501c3 designated arm of the Evanston Alumni Chapter of Kappa Alpha Psi. And I'm very excited for you all to join us today. You know, we've had these different discussions trying to provide information to our community, and in particular to people of color about issues, whether it was coping with COVID, the mental health crisis we had, issues in education. And this is a topic that's very important to me because I know that when I went away to college and I was a first gen person to go to college, first gen in my family to go to college, I did not really have a well thought out process. I kind of just went to the school that offered me the most money, excuse me. I didn't really pay much attention to matching up to my needs outside of understanding that I went to small schools for grammar school and high school and figured that a small school would be good for me. But other than that, there really wasn't a lot of thought that went into it. And I consider myself very fortunate in that I was a decent enough student that I could overcome any issues that might have come up because I hadn't thought things through. But also, the college was a lot less expensive than when I went. Today, the average person that attends a four-year college, the cost of that education will be the second most expensive thing that they pay for in their lifetime. So I think it's really important that we provide families and students with the right questions to ask, a better process than the one that I use to determine a college, because although college isn't for everyone and it's not the only path to success, what we do know is that the effect of attending and graduating from college when it comes to net worth, when it comes to health, when it comes to all types of life outcomes, having a college degree is correlated to having better outcomes in all these different areas. So the panel we have today are people that I actually know personally who are not only knowledgeable, but they're passionate and they are committed to our young people and committed to our family and our communities. And I just want to thank you all for being here. I want to thank Keith for the job that he does as our moderator. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. So thanks for joining us, and I hope you get a lot out of today's discussion.
Yes. I want to welcome again the folks that have joined us, this Paul W. Caine Foundation Family Health Series, College Readiness. Again, my name is Keith Terry. The reason I'm starting over again is I was a little tardy at starting the webinar. And so I'd like to welcome you. We have a dynamite group, and you just heard from our president of the Paul W. Caine Foundation, Mr. Kevin Mott. Having said that, let me now start this with a few housekeeping things that you should worry about. If you are, for all those attending, you're in listen only mode. And so we won't be able to see you, but you can see us. If you have questions, please put your questions in the Q&A section so that our panel can see it. I have a series of questions here for it. And so what we're going to do is I'm going to introduce the speakers. I've asked each of them to spend 5 minutes talking about their area of expertise, their passion. And so I again want to thank you. And so I'm going to introduce. But before I do that, let's just talk a little bit about some statistics that I found. And I found that it was very, very, very interesting. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can see me a little bit better. Right now, there are roughly about 15 to 16 million undergraduates across the nation and 3 million folks that are in post-secondary education. These numbers were a little lower than I thought. So I was a little surprised when I did this. I can tell you pre and post, and I'm sure our panelists can tell you, COVID had a large impact on decreasing college enrollment. And if you look at 2010 or 2010 versus 2020, yeah, college admissions were going up, but consistently they seem to be going down. The cost of tuition, and I just went and looked at the numbers, the average cost of tuition is $35,000 per year. $35,000 per year. Now, what's interesting is I do a deep dive just on costs. A 4-year in-state tuition is $9,300. Well, they said the total cost is $25,707. Out of state is $44,014. And so if you were going to a 2-year college, it's even $15,000. So I looked at that and said, wow, the numbers of going to school are getting higher. The costs are getting higher. I want a couple more statistics because we are in the state of Illinois. Enrollment from 2010 through today has gone down by roughly 24%. Between 1970 and 2010, at least college has gone up, but still the numbers are going down. And right now, 54% of college students are women. So having said that, let me now introduce the panel because you've heard enough from me. They're the experts, I'm not. Let me first introduce you to Patricia Gonzalez, has been an educator for over 25 years. As Dean of Scholar Support, Patricia designs and implements college to career programming, develops relationships with campus partners, and provides coaching and support to Jack Kent Cooke scholars attending 4-year institutions across the nation. Patricia's career includes teaching Spanish in New York City's public schools, high school counseling in Western New York, and academic advisement counseling and leadership development at the State University of New York. Upon relocating to Northern Virginia, Patricia served as a community outreach academic advisor at Northern Virginia Community College, collaborating with local organizations to provide college readiness programming to low-income, immigrant, and first-generation college students. Patricia received her BA in psychology from Syracuse University and her master's in counseling education from the College of Brockport. She has completed doctoral work courses in higher education administration at the State University of New York at Buffalo and holds certificates in college advising from Columbia University's Teachers College and in diversity and inclusion from Cornell University. Next, we have Ms. Ama Appenteng Milam, I hope I said that correctly, was raised in Joliet, Illinois, before attending Northwestern University for her undergraduate career. There, she majored in social policy and education and was active in multiple organizations such as Fusion Dance Company, the Peer Health Exchange, a tutor at Sunlight African Community Center in Uptown Chicago, and president of the African Student Association. Today, Ama serves as the program director at Center for Companies That Care. She supports and manages 450 youth grades 9 through college completion, designs and implements curriculum, and leads a programmatic team. Through her work at Companies That Care, Ama has come to intensely, well, let me read that again. Ama has become intensely devoted to illuminating the inequities of post-education, secondary education, and dismantling systemic racism witnessed in multiple industries across the nation. Ama is active at her local church and enjoys reading, exercising, dancing, hosting friends and family in her home in Portage Park, Chicago. Next, we have Mr. Craig Lynch. Craig serves as the Chief Executive Officer of the Youth and Opportunity United. It's a 51-year-old youth development agency serving Evanston and Skokie. Craig has over 26 years of experience helping Chicagoans create better futures through education and access to vital support services. Prior to YOU, Craig served as the Chief Program Officer at the Chicago Child Care Society, CCCS, which is a 170-year-old nonprofit located in Hyde Park. Craig has also served at the city colleges of Chicago and Chicago public schools in a variety of senior leadership positions in education, including interim president, chief of staff, chief information officer, respectively. Craig received his MBA from the University of Illinois at Chicago and a Bachelor of Arts from Illinois Wesleyan University. He was the recipient of the CIO Magazine Ones to Watch Award in 2009 and is currently a member of the Black Creativity Advisor Committee of the Museum of Science and Industry. Craig is an advocate sports fan, likes to struggle with golf, and play chess. And I wonder if he was successful with his March Madness bracket, but we'll talk about that at another time. Welcome, panel. I am so delighted. If you take your mics off mute, I just want the world to hear your voices and your smiling faces. And I'm just so happy that you guys are here. I think this is a timely subject, and I will serve just as the traffic cop. You guys are the experts. And so what I've done is I've asked each of you to say a few things, and we're going to start with Patricia, next Ama, and then Craig. And so, Patricia, I turn the mic over to you. If you want to share your screen, that'd be great. Listen up, audience. If you have questions, put them in the chat feature, and they will get addressed.
Thank you, Keith. Like Keith said, my name is Patricia Gonzalez, and reading my bio, it's like I don't have any fun, but I try to have fun. But I am an avid Disney fanatic, and I am a Disney adult. I will go to Disney at least once a year. I promise you that. Okay. So that's how I have fun. So just wanted to highlight on this particular opening slide that you can reach me on Twitter at PPLS Counselor, Instagram at People's Counselor, and then on Facebook, you can search The People's Counselor. And there I provide information that is little known about getting ready for college. So please feel free to contact me there. Sorry, trying to figure out how to move this slide along.
Just hit the down arrow. There you go.
Got it. Okay, so quickly, what's in a college application? And this looks like a lot. It is kind of a lot. So things that are important. Number one, your transcript, your high school transcript and transcripts from any community colleges where you might have taken some dual college credit courses. Standardized test scores, although those are definitely becoming more optional, it is important to at least make sure that you do take some standardized tests. Extracurricular and co-curricular activities. What do you do outside of school? Babysitting counts. Your essays is your voice. Everything else is numbers. So your essays are your voice, and that is one of the most important pieces of a college application. Recommendation letters, of course, and be careful who you ask to write you a recommendation letter. And demonstrating interest is like emailing an admissions officer and asking questions. And then, of course, supplemental materials that the colleges will request. What are the colleges looking for? Again, I'm going to stress this: challenging and rigorous four-year curriculum, and it depends on the institution that you're applying to, right? But just, you want to, and I'll talk about this a little later, you want to make sure that your range is big and you can reach different types of institutions just for interest. Some of the things that I think people don't think about is, do you fit that college? So for example, if you play the trumpet and their band is looking for a trumpet player, that's something that will connect you to that college and is important for them to know about you. Definitely leadership, some sort of, whether you work after school because you have to, or you take your little brothers and sisters to school. Those are also examples of leadership that you can talk about. And then, of course, demonstrating an interest, of course. So these are some things that you should be looking for and you should be doing. So your fit is important. So making sure that you apply to the colleges that you want to apply to. The other piece of it is creating a balanced list. So don't undermatch, which means pick colleges that are easy to go to and to get into. Make sure that you have some colleges that are reach, and financially there's a reason for that. They have large endowments, so they can give you more money. Make sure you pick some that are targets, that are somewhere in that, it's in terms of acceptance rates, between 30 and 45% acceptance rate. Because that's where you'll get the most acceptance from, because that's a big best match, right? And then likelies, make sure you include your state universities, make sure you include some other colleges that are maybe 40, 45 to and up acceptance rates, right? So making sure that your list is balanced, maybe have about 12 schools on that list.
Okay.
And definitely making sure that there are some up there that are dream schools. I always say add a couple of dream schools. You never know. You know, if you'll get accepted and they want to give you tons of scholarship money, you never know. So you got to do it. What can you do to prepare for college? So this is like, I put in 8th through 10th grade. You can be preparing as early as the 8th grade. And the big thing about the 8th grade is you choose your high school during that time. So you want to make sure you're choosing a high school that has a rigorous curriculum, that has honors and AP courses, that has opportunities for you to participate in extracurricular activities that are to your benefit, and that you'll be able to progress in, from 9th through 12th grade. Those are really important. Making sure that your skills are up to par and ready for college. So time management, learning how to study, that's a huge thing for college. And I won't go into that, but I think that's something that you really can do as early as the 8th grade, even earlier if you wanted to. And making sure, again, that your transcript is college ready and that provides you all options for any type of institution you might want to attend. In the 11th and 12th grades, you want to make sure that you're doing your research, that if you're financially eligible for fee waivers, that you're finding out how to do that from your high school counselor, that you're participating in standardized testing, and of course, financial aid. And then for parents, for families, the biggest thing that you need to make sure you do is understand the financial aid process, and keeping your child on deadline, and do not make your stress their stress. That's the most important thing. Your worries, do not pass them on to your child. Very quickly, these are some of the differences between the FAFSA and the CSS profile TLDR. FAFSA is federal aid, college scholarship service profile. CSS profile determines institutional aid. Not all colleges require it, but the colleges that have money to give you require it. And so everyone should be completing the CSS profile if your college requires it. If you are if your child is a US citizen or permanent resident, they should fill out the FAFSA. It doesn't matter what your citizenship status is, it matters what your child's citizenship status is.
Got it.
And then here are some helpful resources to help you figure out how much is a college going to cost. I'm just going from the bottom up. The US Department of Education has a net price calculator center where you could figure out not just the cost that you see as the total cost, but what you would pay according to your family situation. So it gives you estimates of that. And I encourage you to do that because a lot of times people think it will be cheaper to attend a public institution versus a private. And sometimes the privates have more money to give you.
Patricia, what we can do, we could, if people ping, what we can do is come back to these two slides at the end. Mm-hmm. I know you got a lot of passion around these. And so I don't want to cut you off, but these are two resources. and I just know that there's a lot of information. If you want these slides, please ping me, come back to me, and we will definitely get this information up. I'm eager to get into the conversation. And so next up we have Miss Ama Appenteng. And so Ama, first, did I say your name correctly?
Did. It's Appenteng. Right. Really, it looks much more complicated than it is, but yes, Appenteng. Thank you so much, Keith. And Patricia, thank you so much. You kind of did a really great alley to talking about all of the intensive work that families could do in preparation for college. And today I just really want to focus quickly on that transition from high school to college and how to really prepare your student to kind of hand them off to the next stage. So as Keith mentioned, I am the program director at Center for Companies That Care, and our work is to dramatically increase college graduation rates, and obviously that has become my life's mission as well. And the reason why an organization like Center for Companies That Care and our two signature programs, Aim High and Invisible Differences, exist is because there is so much inequity in post-secondary access and completion. So I know that this is a Q&A chat and I can't see faces, but if anybody wants to put in the chat what they believe the greatest predictor of a college graduation is, I'll count to 5. And if you don't get any responses, I'll reveal the answer.
Wow. Say the question again, the greatest predictor of success?
Yes, of college graduation.
Ooh, that's a great one. Please.
It's family income. Unfortunately, family income, and again, just highlighting that all of the things that we see in our society are intertwined. It's not always because if your student is extremely bright or competent or capable, but unfortunately we see that the greatest predictor is family income. And that has, again, a correlation, as Kevin talked about before we kicked off the panel, of just being a first-generation student and having access to individuals and resources who can help you navigate the college landscape. And so 75% of students who come from high-income households graduate from college, and less than 10% of students from low-income households are graduating from college. And so we have designed programs to address why this is happening. And once again, academics rarely is the greatest challenge. It happens, but we've kind of seen some barriers. And so very quickly, barriers to a college degree and some of the solutions that we've come up with is, first and foremost, that transition from high school to college is super spotty. You work really hard with your student senior year, you get them into a college, but now what, right? And so there's things like you have to put in a deposit, you have to select a roommate, do a meal plan. And students often miss these deadlines because the big accomplishment of getting into college and they feel like I've arrived. And there's so many things that they miss. And so sometimes they lose their spot even if they're not communicating with the college or the university. The transition to high school from college is also spotty for our diverse learners. Oftentimes families who have students who have IEPs or 504 plans assume that those kind of accommodations are going to be accessible to them in college and therefore might not realize how active they need to get. The law changes significantly. Your student in high school or K through 12 is protected by the IDEA. And as soon as they turn 18, now they're under the ADA. And it's a very different legal process in terms of their accommodations and what colleges are required. So solutions that we have is parents come up with an email address when your student starts to apply for college. So if it's ama@gmail.com, that everybody has access to, because that's the email address that the colleges are going to be emailing your student. And that way you can help your student stay on top of some deadlines, because oftentimes if it's going to their high school account, they have 400 unread emails, as we can imagine. Another way to help with that transition is there's something called the FERPA. It's a form that families can sign with their students that gives you as an adult permission to access everything from their grades to the registrar to even talking to financial aid. When your student turns 18, colleges are not required. In fact, it's illegal for them to share any information with somebody who is not the student. 18, yes, they're an adult, but we know they're still a very young person.
Yeah, we do.
So we want to be as involved. And this is not being a helicopter parent. This is the difference from students who might be coming from continuing generations of education. Their parents are involved. First generation students deserve adults who are very active in that transition and continue to support them. I'm going to talk lack of financial resources.
You're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, no, you froze. So what we'll do is we'll go on to Craig and keep going. So Craig, can you share your slides?
Yeah, I'll do that. Give me one
Okay.
second.
Am I back now?
Yes, you are. You can hear you.
Okay, I stopped my video and I apologize. I just switched to another router. Craig, if you want to go up, that's totally fine, and I can.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we finish with you, because you're just a minute or so away from being.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fitness, and then Craig. Sorry about that.
No, I apologize. I just switched routers, so please excuse me. The financial resources is, again, a huge barrier for college completion. And Patricia laid out all of the important information in terms of FAFSA and all of that. So some 2 tips that I'm going to have for families is that there are schools that have financial aid policies that you can research. US News is one of the platforms that I use chronically to look up things like that. And so you're going to look for a word or term rather, full need met. And it's a graph. And so you'll go to the school, let's say your student is looking to attend University of Illinois. So you go to US News, you'll scroll to the bottom, and it'll be a graph that says percentage of full need met. What that means is that school will cover X percentage of the need your family has to pay for college. It's a little complicated, but once you complete the FAFSA, for example, in your family, it comes up that your family can afford $0 to contribute to your student's education, which is very common for my students in my program. Then that number gets sent to the University of Illinois. If your student gets accepted and the University of Illinois' full need met percentage is 60%, they will put together a financial aid package that covers 60% of cost of attendance. So there's still that 40% that your family might need to come up with, that you can find other additional scholarships and things like that to pay. But that is how a financial aid policy works. A school like Harvard, as Patricia meant, schools with large endowments, very wealthy institutions, they're 100% need met. So if your family can afford $0 to contribute to your student's education, Harvard will put together a package that covers 100% of the cost of attendance. So of course, encourage your kids. Grades matter. You need good grades to get into Harvard. So put that time in to grow that GPA, all of those great points that Patricia meant in terms of building those college applications, because you want to get to schools that cover 100% of your need met, which will help with the financial cost. So yeah, I'll stop there and we can touch on the other bullet points throughout the conversation.
Thank you so much for that. Next up, we have Craig, Mr. Craig Lynch. Craig.
Yeah, thanks, Keith. And my bracket is doing very well. I didn't have Purdue losing though, but I don't think many people.
I don't hear you.
So I thought it'd be helpful just to talk just about a few facts. You talked about some, Keith, in the beginning about the millions of students that are actually enrolled in college. But I think some of these facts just illustrate why the readiness conversation is so important. Nationally, the graduation rate is about 62%. So that means, 6 out of 10 students will actually complete. But that means 4 in 10 have a harder time and will not complete. And then the graduation rates for Black and Brown students, you can see 40% and 54% respectively. So it just means that, Black and Brown students are going to have to work a lot harder to get access to the resources and supports that they need to complete. And then in terms of like the value question, or like, is it even worth it to go? The national statistics suggest that bachelor's degree holders are going to earn about 31% more in lifetime earnings, about $2.3 million more than students who have a high school diploma, and about 31% more than students who have an associate's degree. So completion does pay off in the long run when you look at the national statistics and the median earnings. At YOU, this is a really timely topic because we are working on trying to build a post-secondary college program. And so we're really thinking about the life cycle. Right. And so not to oversimplify, because Patricia and Ama talked about all the really important things that need to happen, but we think about it in terms of the life cycle, in terms of readiness, access, and then completion. And so as we're thinking about things that we would want parents and students to know in terms of readiness, in addition to the things that Patricia and Ama talked about, certainly trying to engage with your college counselors while you're in high school is important. We know that college counselors are overworked, so they're not going to find you. You're going to have to work hard and go find them because there just aren't enough of them, right? But they do have access to resources. They can give students valuable information about college. So I think that's an important step. And then there are lots of great college prep programs out there that students can participate in. And here's just a few examples: Chicago Scholars, Posse, Urban Alliance. So a great way for high school students to get support around college, and a lot of those programs even provide scholarships and other kind of resources. Another thing that's really popular now is the opportunity for high school students to attain college credits before they even get to college, right? So AP courses, people are pretty familiar with that. If you get a 4 or 5, every school has to accept the AP course. And then dual credit programs are offered at a lot of the high schools, which is typically through a partnership with the community colleges. And so obtaining those college credits is a great way to, one, shorten the time to completion, which then increases the possibility that students will graduate, and it also lowers the cost because now you're not in college as long. So I think that's a great option and great opportunity that I would encourage every family, every student to explore. And then another thing in terms of readiness is just checking out the schools. And this is something like, for all the things that were really bad during the pandemic, this is an area where colleges were forced to innovate. The tours that they can do virtually now are like really, really good because colleges had to do it because students couldn't physically visit the campus. So they've got drone footage and just lots of ways to really kind of get a sense of like, what would it be like to be on that campus, to kind of address the fit question. And then I think another really important thing in terms of readiness is just, around the research and what is the employment rate for graduates, right? Ask the colleges for your students that graduate, how many of them have jobs? And I think that's a really important question to ask. On the completion side, on the access side, I think, exploring community colleges is really important, and it's an alternate pathway. Community colleges have been very intentional about establishing pathways that link directly to four-year institutions. So for some students, going directly to a four-year might not be for them, but a community college, which allows them to really kind of get a sense of what are they interested in terms of careers, could be a great option. And then they can still matriculate to a four-year. The other advantage, if you go the community college route, you can come out with a credential that supports work, career opportunities. So you could work and then again, go to a four-year and overall save on the total cost of college. I think it's important to make sure that whatever institution you're considering, that they actually offer the programs and careers that your students are interested in. And sometimes that means you have to go beyond the name. Make sure you understand the admissions criteria. Ama talked about that. Patricia talked about that. Verify the cost of attendance. Colleges by law have to tell you what the total cost of attendance is. How much is it going to cost for your student to attend? That's very important to know as you're trying to make the financial decisions about what college to attend. And then as you're exploring scholarship opportunities, there are lots of great opportunities out there. What I've generally found is they fall into two buckets, right? Need-based scholarships, which typically have some type of income guidelines associated with them. But then there are merit-based opportunities, which are really about a student's academic performance. So for some families that think I can't, we don't qualify for those scholarships, I would say don't despair. There are other opportunities that are out there. And again, they're hard to find, but they are out there. And there are opportunities to reward students that have strong academic performance. And then the last thing is just on the completion side, I would just suggest that really working with your student to really understand the pathway to completion. And by pathways, like what courses do you have to take in what order to get to the end? That's really important because that saves you time, right? And the way financial aid works right now, financial aid really does not encourage students finding themselves in college. It gets more expensive. Your courses have to count towards your degree. So the more you can be intentional about what you intend to graduate in, then the more you can make sure that those courses are covered by financial aid. So that pathway is really important. Asking college, trying to understand how accessible are the resources on campus for your student to be successful. Where are the tutoring services? Where is the career office? What kind of mental health supports are available on campus? I think it's really important to understand where those resources are. And then, of course, exploring internships and work study opportunities can help further solidify the career intentions for your students. And then I think another thing around completion is just asking the institution, how do they provide support for students once they actually leave college? So those are just some important, I think, tips, things to consider for caregivers, for students as you're starting this college journey.
Okay. Anything else, Craig?
That's it.
If you stop sharing your slide, let's get into this. So I'm gonna ask my panel to take themselves off mic, and I have a poll question I'm gonna ask in just a couple of minutes. But let's start with you guys have all said some very provocative things, and so let's start with do you see the system getting better or worse? Now, I know that's a loaded question, right? Because a lot of you talked about it, but with college enrollment going down, I just don't know how to think about this. And what I'm looking for is your vision. You all have jobs. You've all gone to college. What got you to where you are? So I start by asking, is the system getting better, or how do you see it from your perspective? Because you're in this fight. COVID was one thing. So, and just jump in.
So I think one of the things that the pandemic did help with in terms of college admissions was the amount of colleges who are now going test optional. I think it's not just the pandemic, it was 2020, it was George Floyd, it was having the conversations about anti-racism and equity. And I think that was one of the things that I think colleges really started thinking, how do we remove some of the barriers to access for Black and Brown students? So that's, in that sense, I think some things are getting better. Obviously, our communities make up for the lack of access by some of the organizations that Craig mentioned. For example, Posse is an awesome transition, high school to college, and then they support the students through college. My own organization, Jack Kent Cook, the students receive scholarship funding, but they also get a dean who supports them through the college process, their 4 years in college, or their time in college. And so in that sense, on the higher ed side, there are some ideas about, creating equity, but a lot of it happens on the community side.
Ama, Craig, anything you want to add to that, or take it in a different direction based on the question?
Yeah, I think the system, by and large, is the same. The one thing that has gotten worse is, of course, the cost of tuition has, risen more, like about 140% over the last 20 years, and outpacing inflation. So like the cost has dramatically increased, but the system itself is by and large the same. It's very hard to navigate. Resources can be scattered, right? So it's just, you have to be, as a student and as a caregiver, like you have to be really motivated to understand how to link your student to those support resources that are on campus. And I don't think that has changed much.
Right.
There are lots of resources there, but they're very hard to access. So from an equity perspective, from an access perspective, I don't think there's been any dramatic improvement.
Yeah,
Okay.
I would just tie up what Patricia and Craig mentioned. I think things are better because there are more organizations like the ones that we work at that have grown in the past 20, 30 years to support first generation students. And the institutions, I think, have gotten a pass because they still get the outcomes they desire, but probably don't acknowledge that most of it is because all of these external partners are supporting first gen students.
Can you say more about that? I mean, they get a pass. Because where I sit as a father, my kids, I have kids that haven't gone to college. I have kids that have gone to college, and you guys are looking at a lot of different things. And you said they get a pass.
Yeah.
Say more about that.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we struggle with is who's going to be accountable for the fact that we're pushing students, encouraging, rather, I want to say pushing, but we're encouraging students to get a post-secondary degree, a very expensive one, but they're going and not completing college. Who's going to be accountable for that, right? And so we can't put the onus on families and students because they don't know what they don't know. Yet colleges can take your money and say, well, too bad, you got to drop out because you don't have enough next semester, your grades weren't ready. And so oftentimes we are wondering who's going to finally put the resources, whether it's personnel, money, towards backing first generation students to make sure that they get through? Again, it's not a lack of competency or desire to obtain a college degree. It's just, as Craig mentioned, it's a very difficult space to navigate. There are some colleges that are preparing and working towards developing departments for first gen students. And I know that we can all mention them off the top of our head, but then we also know so many students who go, I don't know who to talk to. I don't know where to go. And they lose sight of their original goal, which is, I just want to get a college degree. And so what I mean by getting a pass is institutions that have lots of money should be able to divert some of that funding to make sure kids graduate from college. But if enough kids are graduating, they're like, it's not our problem.
Not a problem. Got it. Got it. Okay. So let's talk about getting there. I think it was Patricia that said you should start as early as 8th grade. And I guess as I think about my children's and my friends' children's path to college, we all think that, going to the right high school makes a difference. But, Ama, you highlighted something that said it's the family's financial health that dictates a lot. And so let's talk about getting there. When you say first generations, parents don't know what they don't know. And so, what do you guys have to say about, parents that don't know that they don't know? It's so complicated here because we talk about first generation college students. Kevin was one, I'm one. So, I know my mother, I love her dearly, but she didn't know some stuff. So how can the listening audience help their children? What needs to happen? Let's talk about getting there. 8th grade, high school, because high schools aren't created equal. And I'm gonna shut up because I could talk.
Yeah. So interestingly, my mom wasn't allowed to go to school. And so she never learned how to read or write.
Wow.
And my father had a 3rd grade education. And I'm the youngest of 9 children. And my siblings, I can remember like reading and writing when I was like 3 years old. And I can remember that far back. And I say that because whatever you know or don't know, read. Like that is the first preparation, and that is as early as possible, right? Just the fact that my parents didn't have an education, right? But I was able to still even, start a doctoral program, I think is a big testament to what first generation families bring to the table, right? So it's like navigational capital, resistance capital, like all of that cultural capital, you bring that to the table. And that's how you can help your kids attain what they desire. And it literally starts with reading. And I know that's basic, but that's, sometimes we look at things from a deficit model, right, when we should really be looking at it from what we actually bring to the table, especially like with immigrant parents and, all of that, right? I don't want to get on my soapbox, but I think that's, it's that part of it is so simple.
Okay. Craig, any?
I would totally agree. And I definitely don't want it, as you said, Patricia, it's not a deficit model. And in fact, I meet brilliant parents every single day who've never set foot on a college campus. And I'm like, you would have ran circles around me if you had the opportunity to get to a college. And so it is not a lack of intelligence or whatever that might look like from an outside looking in. And, the work ethic that you can bring to your student and teach them. Like I always tell kids, it's great to be smart. It's better to work hard. That's really what's going to get you through college, hard work. And, college is a marathon. You got it every day, put one foot in front of the other. But for parents, attend as many meetings that your schools, your high schools offer. Anything that your college counselors are putting out there. I know we're super busy. Hopefully they're accommodating work schedules, but attend as many meetings as possible. Get your students plugged into organizations like ourselves or Posse or all the other ones here featured today, because we often host webinars and after school things to give you lots of information. Attend college tours with your student. Just get a sense of stepping on a college campus with them, because you'll be able to ask questions also. They're also geared to families and parents. And so be as active as involved, because you're acquiring knowledge at the same time your student is. And you'll definitely find that over time, you're going to feel more comfortable. And I think my last thing is, it's okay that you don't know. You know, if you don't know, Google, reach out to a person. As Patricia mentioned, read. You don't have to be embarrassed or ashamed if you don't know how to navigate college. I do this for a living, and I find myself going, wait, who do I call for this emergency? You know, so it is very, very challenging.
Yeah, I think those are great things to consider. I also think starting with the end in mind is a great way to start having those conversations early. Like asking your student, what do you want to do? Right? If this is what you want to do, then let's talk about how do you get there, and that's how you get in. That's one way to get into the college conversation. Even, and it doesn't matter, because we know, statistically, people are going to change careers 3, 4, 5 times. So you don't have to know exactly what it is, but as long as you can start thinking about, if you're interested in a career in medicine, well, let's talk about the pathway to do that, right? And then you start talking about the college conversation. So I think having the conversations early is definitely valuable, and I think having a career focus helps you figure out the steps along the way.
Okay. Boy, man, the time is, it was 11:30, now it's 11:51. I don't want to run out of time here. So, because Craig, you said something that I think is very true. And I wanted to talk about, you said the financial parts of college, the cost of it it's punitive to try to find yourself. So the reason I say getting to college, right? I think you guys believe that it should have started 8th grade. But my question is, you don't know what you don't know, right? If you're coming from a low income family or a limited community family, what your organization was started. How do you guys think that kids should become more aware? Because there is a problem in the country, I think, between college, the value of college, and a job. Some people have, hooray that they have a degree now, but they don't have a job now. And when people look at the cost of that, they're like, well, was it worth going to college? I believe it is. But let's just talk about how kids find themselves. Because, you guys are all woke, but you weren't always woke, right? So let's talk about that part. What do you say about that?
Yeah. High school is really like, you gotta do the best you can in terms of career research. So shadowing people, like if if you go to the dentist, right? Like your parents take you to the dentist, and you think, this might be something I'd be interested in. Ask your dentist, can I shadow you for an afternoon? It's like trying to get as much information during high school, I think, is really a way to kind of feel like once you get to college, you're going to have a sense. But honestly, developmentally, college students don't really solidify that identity until their junior year. And so,
Okay.
there is a piece of it that is going to be exploration. And I think that's what's important is you everything I say, balance, right? Balance. If you think you want to be a doctor, you better take bio or chemistry in that first year and get all of the support that you need, because a lot of times those courses are weeder courses. They try to weed you out. But get all of the support that you need, tutoring, free things on campus. but mix it in with, oh, I think I might want to be a doctor, but you know what? I love writing. So take a writing course.
Okay.
Take things that are gonna show or showcase like both, whether it's STEM and arts, that kind of thing, so that you kind of get a sense of, okay, I'm more drawn to this and I'm less drawn to this. And a lot of times your grades will tell you what you're drawn to and what you're not drawn to. And that's information that you can get like right when you start college. But really, like, you got to try to, high school is a good place for exploration, and it has to be, I think, something that is embedded into high school programming.
Good point.
To students find themselves.
Good point. Good point. Anything else? Because I'm going to launch this poll question, but you guys want to add anything else to that?
I would add, we have in our organization, career exploration is probably one of the most foundational pillars, because career is tied to college. Why are you going to college? To find a career. So actually on Thursday evening, we had something called the Career Fair, where we invited 40 career professionals to come and set up booths, and the students could talk to them. What do you do? How did you get there? What degree did you have? And I think the students loved that, because they met somebody who was an accountant but majored in English. You learn about the pathways, that so many alternative pathways. Maybe someone had a really, a linear pathway to become a doctor. And maybe someone said, oh, I went back to medical school at 35. We also have career awareness internships. And so we have an internship for 6 weeks that we expose students to various careers and visit local, small, big, large businesses. But then lastly, really encourage your student to figure out what they like to do. We all know what we're bad at. We're reminded of it every single day. But talk to their kid about what they're good at and what they like, because that's a great way to start connecting to career. I like working with my hands, engineering, manufacturing, whatever it is. Really start focusing on what you like, because that's going to cultivate potential career opportunities.
Good point. Well said. So I'm going to launch the poll, and I'd like to, I'll keep these up. First one is biggest concerns. What are your biggest concerns? You see financial, being able to afford tuition. 2, making new friends, being able to maneuver independently. Handling the academic challenge is the first one. So if you could, if the audience could participate in that, that'd be great. I'm not going to rush this. The second one is, what is your college preference? Do you prefer a large school, small school, community college, trade school? There's so many different options. And so I really wanted to take a time to let the panelists hear what you have to say. And so we'll keep this up for a few minutes, a few seconds more, and let you all respond to that. So great. There we go. People are responding. So
Yay.
yes. So I'm gonna end it now. And so what we have here is we can see that 50% of their biggest concerns are financial. And then the second one is handling the academic challenge. And so I guess that's a little surprising to me, because I'm not saying that college was easy, but it was. I was committed to it. Are these surprising to any of you?
No, not for me. I think that makes sense. Money, and is my kid academically ready? Yeah.
And then the second one is a large school, small school. Let's talk a little bit about that. Does it matter? Kevin talked a little bit about, being lucky, picking the right school for himself. Ama, you went to a really big school, or, Craig, but all of you did. Your own personal selection versus what you recommend to your client base. Can you talk a little bit about school choice?
Yeah, school choice matters. significantly. And you think of school not even just size, but regionally, if you want to be close to home versus go far away from home, that also intertwines with cost, right? So if your student goes to school, if you live in Illinois, but your student goes to school in Georgia, every time it's time to come home, you're going to either buy a plane ticket or you have to come up with transportation. So cost becomes something that's involved in school choice. Size, bigger schools will have bigger classes. And if your student needs a more intimate student to teacher ratio, sending them to a large state school with 40,000 kids on campus is probably not the best fit for them. And so you might have 3 kids at home and they go to 3 very different colleges and excel because it's what works for them. And so I encourage families, go on those college trips. Stepping foot on a college is a very different experience than even just reading something on paper. That's great that we have access to the internet and you can do research, but the feel of a college campus can really influence your student and your family's decision of, oh, it's really easy to navigate, or my kid has to get on a bus to get from one class to another class versus all the classes are nice and right around each other. So thinking about your students' maturity, ability to navigate a large campus, a large institution should very much be part of your choice decision.
Wow. Well said. Okay. Anything else from either of you?
Yeah, I would. So one of the things that I regret about my experience, and I loved my alma mater, I love it still.
Okay.
So as a psychology major, it was such a big school that I don't feel like I didn't get what I wanted and what I didn't know that I wanted. So one of the things that I always push is like, if this is something that you're interested in, you got to make sure that you have access to research opportunities as an undergrad. That is what is going to help you determine, whether this is what you want to do as a graduate student and in career. And so large schools sometimes, and this doesn't actually, it's not even about how big the school is, it's how much attention you'll be able to get from the faculty is really what it is. And
so are you saying that size doesn't matter? It's the faculty attention? Because I was under the assumption that large schools give less attention from faculty. Is that not true?
It could be. It's generally that's the case, but I think you have to, this is why, like Ama and Craig were saying, being able to engage with the college before you make that decision is really important, because you have to know, okay, this might be a large institution, but what are the opportunities for students in this particular major to get research opportunities with faculty, to get internship experience while they're in college, to get paid internship experience, especially, for Black and Brown students. Those are things that you have to ask specific questions about and tie the student into that department or that program within the university or college that will give them that attention. But the stereotype for sure, like large institutions, faculty are more focused on research and they might not be as focused on teaching. But there are questions you can get more into that.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it does. It depends on the student to a large degree and the kind of support that's going to help them thrive. So if a student is the kind of student that needs to sit with somebody and like talk things through, right?
Gotcha.
It's going to be a little bit harder to do at a larger institution where maybe you have to talk to the TA and you can't get the attention of the faculty, right? So I do think there are some considerations when you're thinking about a large school versus a small school in terms of supports for students. So I do think I think it matters.
Okay, great. So let's take a question from the audience that's popped up. It says, what if your student is a freshman in college and is really struggling to discipline himself and do the hard work? Are there any organizations to help him figure out whether it's worth it to take a step back or rethink his goals? That's the question. So
Yes, and I'd be happy to do that and talk to your family. So they can definitely reach out to me. That's the work that we do. As I mentioned, we meet students in 9th grade, but we're with students all the way through college completion. So some kids come in at different points in their academic journey. Executive functioning, or the ability to organize oneself, is probably one of the biggest challenges for a young person, right? They're used to high school being told what to do. You go to first period, second period, third period. Here's your book. Your teacher puts up the assignment. There's a reminder that you need to put your assignment on Friday. College, you pick your own classes. Your schedule is spotty. You might have this 3-hour break. You want to sleep. You want to play video games. You don't know what to do with your time. Managing your time is by far the biggest, oh my gosh, I'm a big kid now, experience kids get in college. And so I often see students who are struggling academically. Sure, there might be a deficit. Maybe we don't know enough math or science or English, but management of time is where we'll probably start with what are you doing in between, your bio class and your English class? Oh, I sleep, or I go play video games. Well, in college, the way it's designed is that if you're taking a credit hour, 4 credit hours, the college is expecting that you need to devote 4 hours of studying and preparation in between classes. So if you are not spending 4 hours studying between those 2 classes or the 2 times that you guys meet, you haven't really given it your all. So if you're getting a C or a D in that class and you're only studying 30 minutes a week, that makes sense. You're not capable, but once again, you probably managed your expectations. It's going to take 4 hours for you to get a good grade in that class. So I would be happy to speak with that parent and that student, but time management, executive functioning tends to be one of the reasons why students aren't performing academically.
Okay, great. Ama or Craig, you want to add to anything to that? I could certainly keep going here. Yeah, and so I have a question here, and which I think was answered. Is it a good idea to pay money for college tours? And what I'm hearing you guys say is yes, attending the walking on campus gives you a feel for it. Anything else you want to add to it? Because that'll check off that question, because I want to make sure the parents feel like I've asked them properly.
I think as many as you can attend, I would encourage families to go for it, right? It can get really expensive. So if there are opportunities to take advantage of trips that are sponsored by the school or sponsored by other outside organizations, I would encourage, families to go for it. There is no substitute for being on the campus and getting a feel for what it would actually be like.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the easiest thing you can do is go to local college campuses. Go to your local community college campus, your local, anything that's close by, and just take a walk. That is the cheapest and easiest thing that you can do to start to get a sense of what you're attracted to, what you want. And that's free, right? But getting tied into organizations that will put together a college tour or will subsidize like that, I think those are important. And if you have the funds, definitely take a trip and I have had parents that I've worked with that have, let's just go to the schools in New Jersey. Let's just
okay. So let's get into the to the cost side of things, the value proposition side of things. I have a couple of questions. Is how much debt should you incur to go to college? It gets to the value proposition kind of thing. And so I don't want to lead you. You guys all have your own personal journeys to college. post college careers, and you also are seeing what's happening because you're in the fight every day. Any comments on that?
I don't have a magic number. What I would say is, obviously, this is going back to career. If I have a student who is, I want to be an artist, which is a wonderful, noble field, but we also know that it can range in terms of what you can expect in terms of income. I would not encourage them. The Art Institute, for example, in Chicago is a very expensive art school. I would not send you to that school if your family does not have the, ability to pay for tuition. I mean, I think that school is like $70,000. It's something ridiculous, and they don't give out lots and lots and lots of aid. So I would say go to a school that's definitely more affordable, explore, get an art degree, and then maybe add graphic arts to it or something else that you can come out and market yourself so you can start finding employment while pursuing your art, profession. So career choice is definitely something that influences where I would say how much debt you should incur. If you're telling me you're going to be in finance in 4 to 6 years and you're going to make big bucks, we can be a little bit more experimental with your debt, especially if it means going to a top tier university that will get you into Goldman or one of the big consulting firms. But families really need to think about, it's not only the debt, because yes, debt you put off, it's the cost of attendance that you are going to have to worry about while your student is in college. You're going to have to pay for books. You're going to have to make sure your kid gets home for Thanksgiving. Those are the things that you can't put off till tomorrow. And so more so focus on cost of attendance while your student is there, because you don't want to have to say, baby, I can't afford to get you home for Thanksgiving anymore, or we can't afford to pay to help you get food when you need it, or anything like that, because that's where the tightness and the dropout starts to happen, because we can't support them while they're in school.
Got it. Go ahead, please. Are there any places, because here's another question, how can they find non-tuition assistance to help them while they're in college? Food, lodging, sundries, such things such as that. Because when you think about tuition is $9,000, but the overall cost is almost $30,000 to go to school. That's a large number. So any comments that you guys have? I know you don't want them contacting your organizations directly, but we're talking about the cost of college now. And so what else do you guys have to say about that piece? Because it is a huge factor. Because Ama, you really highlighted it, that the biggest predictor of success is family income.
Yeah.
And so, if I only make 50,000 and I have 3 kids and a wife,
Yeah,
that's not a lot of money in this country.
absolutely. I'll just say, I tell my kids, look at the scholarship search, treat it like a part-time job. The students that I see get the most money, external scholarships, so all the ones that are floating around, they're devoting 15 to 20 hours a week looking, and that's the research. You have to write supplemental essays to support those things and doing all of that. Treat it like a part-time job. And if you think of it like that, as a young person working, maybe, with Chicago, okay, you make $15 an hour and you work 20 hours a week, the return on investment, treating scholarship search like a part-time job, is going to be even more than you earn at McDonald's when you work. And I'm not telling you not to work at McDonald's if you need to, but if you can, really carve out your weekends. And parents, this is where you can stay on top of your student. Are you looking for scholarships? Don't wait last minute. Don't think they're just going to come to you. It requires lots and lots of work, and giving yourself that time to really write those really compelling essays, research what works for you. Look for local scholarships, and including large ones. I know everybody wants the McDonald's and the big ones, but local Jewel Osco, your church, your place of employment, parents. Sometimes your employer might give $1,000 out to employee students attending college. Every little bit counts. Start local because there's less competition, right? There's only X amount of kids applying, and then start moving your radius out to those big national ones for the big dollars.
Yeah, one resource that I like to use and recommend is, it's called College Greenlight, and you can set up an account based with your own interests. So it's a profile, and then they send you scholarships specific to you. So you're not out there necessarily like looking.
Wow.
Yeah, like you're not looking for just random, hey, like Google scholarship, but this one is, they send it to you, they tell you the deadlines, they tell you how easy or hard it is to apply for. And of course, varying amounts. So, if I put in there, my name's Patricia, I'm left-handed and I'm Puerto Rican, like, there might be a scholarship for left-handed Puerto Ricans. I don't know. But
Right.
that college Greenlight does actually like send those to you, so you're not necessarily always looking. So I love that resource. And it's the website is cappex.com/greenlight, cappex.com/greenlight.
For anyone listening, if you want that information, if you just DM me or email me, we'll get it out again. She said CapEx, cappex.com/greenlight. Great comment. Anything else from Craig, or any from your perspective?
I think I would just also mention for families that are earlier in the college journey, 529 plans are a viable option. You don't have to just use $529 for tuition. You can use it for any qualified education expense. So that covers some of the things outside of the classroom. So that can be helpful as well.
Okay. And
I'm sorry.
No,
I have to
please.
say this.
Yeah, please.
I have to say this. So some colleges and universities offer certain assistance. So sometimes they'll have emergency funds. If you have to fly home to see your family because of a crisis, they'll have emergency funds. Another thing that they that I'm seeing more is technology assistance. So, helping with the cost of laptops and technology for educational use. And so depending on the school, you should always ask, is there an opportunity fund? Is there an emergency fund? Is there somewhere else that I can access some funding to help me, do some of these personal things that I need?
And in asking that question, do they move quickly? Because sometimes when an emergency happens, you got to get home fast. And I'm just curious, because it gets to the timely question, right? College readiness, starting in 8th grade, 9th grade. When now I'm in college, according to the expert panel I have here, I don't figure my life out till I'm in my junior year. So, I have an issue. Do they move quickly? Because it gets towards the methodical planning for your life, right? It's the search for money, the search for career. So do they? Based on Patricia, based on what you just said?
Yeah, so here, like an emergency fund is emergency. So,
Okay.
schools will, they will, and again, it depends on the school. And again, one of the biggest reasons why I say some of these schools with these endowments have a little bit more freedom of what they do with the funding that they have. And so, they're not so tied to regulations. And so those are the kind of things that if I have to take a trip out this weekend, I need to contact somebody today. And within that short amount of time, hopefully the person is good and they can, help you get the funding that you need.
Okay. We have roughly about 10 minutes left, and I want to make sure that I allow you guys to talk about anything you want to. And I think colleges are moving away from the ACT and PSA. Can you talk a little bit about that? I think back to when I was going, I had a decent score, but it could have been better, right? If I had paid more attention to certain things. Getting into, can you talk a little bit about what you're seeing relative to the national testing or the relaxing of it? So for the listening audience.
Absolutely. Yeah. So Patricia indicated earlier in her presentation that schools are moving to what we call test optional, which means that you do not need to submit an SAT or ACT test score if you would like to, because you scored really high, you can. And we're seeing that even in institutions like the University of Chicago. So this is not just these are highly selective schools that are deciding to be test optional. So I'm not saying you see it across the board.
Right.
I think that's because colleges are realizing that a student's GPA is a better predictor of their academic abilities than one day testing and cramming it and learning all of these nuanced ways of doing a standardized test. So if your student isn't, and a lot of CPS students, CPS I think is a historically 3 to 5 points below the state average for testing. So
Wow.
yeah, so if your student isn't a great test taker, which many individuals are not, if your student cannot afford all of these supplemental testing programs, Kaplan and Huntington, which most, again, non-first generation students, they're not just whizzes, they're just getting all of these supports. Really emphasize getting good grades, get a great GPA. That's what's going to make you shine at a college. They'll be more forgiving of a low standardized test score than they are of a GPA. If your standardized test score is really exceptional, or if you're looking to go into STEM, so like a school of engineering or a school of nursing, a school of medicine, you do want to have a strong math and science standardized test score because they need to know if you're ready to start engaging in college level math and science. And it makes you eligible for a couple more scholarships, but it does not prevent you from getting admission to top tier schools. I have kids who have 17 SAT scores, 4.2 GPAs, and they're getting into the top universities in the college.
Wow, that's a divergent number, 17
Yeah.
and 4.
Oh, absolutely. 17 SAT, 1,000, or excuse me, ACT, 1,000 SAT, and still strong GPAs, and they're getting into great universities.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Any comments from you, Craig?
No, I just think the test optional trend is another sort of positive development that's come out of the pandemic. Schools have realized they're competing for students. They want your student on campus. And so the pandemic forced them to rethink how they think about admissions because they know they need to get your student on their campus. And so I think that's a positive trend, and one I would encourage people to think about, because it does put more pressure on the other parts of your portfolio, your grades, your activities outside of school, right?
Well,
Things around citizenship, like all that stuff becomes even more important if you don't have the standardized test scores.
okay. So my last question is, when I looked at the statistics on college, I see that the females are attending college at a higher rate than men, and it not just now; it's been for a while now. And so, I based on what you guys are seeing, I have I have sons, and I have my own bias, but based on pedagogical folks like yourselves, education experts. What are you seeing? I mean, is there a reason why this might be happening? And I'm not trying to get into politics. I'm trying to get into the reality that, of families and how families can help steer their sons and their daughters. So it just was it was very interesting to see that statistics. And you're smiling so much. There must be a lot behind the question.
I actually really just think it's just the way that the economy is. I mean, there are many jobs like construction and mechanics, and which tend to be more male heavy, that you can enter and, you know, earn lots of money. And so they tend to draw a little bit more men to those fields, whereas I think women don't have as much access to maybe those kind of jobs that are also lucrative but don't require a college degree. So I don't know if it's necessarily endemic of like this huge big gender crisis and whatever. Colleges actually, yes, there's some schools that even have like 60% women. Like you'll see some colleges that are very, very female heavy. I would assume, and I don't know this, Keith, and I should do my research. I just look at jobs that don't require a college degree, that tend to attract more men. And so we boys are like, well, I can go do this and I don't have to go to college. Whereas women are like, well, I don't want to do construction, or I don't think I would be a good mechanic, but I need to go get a college degree to pursue a career. But I'm curious if Patricia and Craig have some other thoughts.
I mean, I think for me, it's like how we socialize people, right? So we might socialize boys to stay away from certain things, maybe, I think one thing that we talk about a lot is the shortage of Black male teachers. And I think that's something that we don't encourage young men to go into as a career. And I think also, I mean, that goes into a whole other conversation about teaching and like the value of it, and things like that. But, I think we don't, I feel like in society, we don't do enough to it's almost like as a boy, you're being told, sports is a good avenue to pursue, or, like like hands-on things. And I think it's just also just not an understanding of the emotional intelligence, piece, I think too, that there's more exploration that you can be doing. And don't put yourself into a box necessarily, whether you're a young man or woman or however you identify.
Yeah, I think the framework of talking about college as this thing that's way, way off in the future, and you can't even start thinking about making any money until you're 6 years down the line, right? That's not attractive to a lot of people generally. And certainly to Ama's point, for men who have some opportunities, enhanced opportunities in some of the trades, that becomes more tangible right away versus this thing that's way off in the future. And I don't even know if I'm going to make it through in 6 years.
Got it. And I'm going to try to sneak in one final question. We have this artificial intelligence initiative that might be happening. Any impact you think that may have, or digital education? Because there are a lot of online stuff now. You guys have any, I'm trying to sneak that last question in because I know, well, let me just stop. Any comments on that?
I think one of the dangers in all the analytics stuff is this implication that because of your background, they're almost trying to tell you ahead of time your chances of making it. And I think that has the potential to discourage students from even trying, right? If the chances are, based on all the data around you, you're not going to be successful, then it turns off and discourages a lot of students from even trying. So I think that's one of the dangers in artificial intelligence, because they're trying to make decisions faster and faster and faster. So when you think about college, they're trying to predict what students are going to be more successful than others, and they're not always right.
Wow, I wasn't even thinking about it like that. I was thinking about it from a perspective of opportunity, kids going into IT and data management versus colleges using it as a predictor of a student's success. Interesting. I'll have to do some more research, but so we have 2 minutes left, and I know that I didn't get to all of the questions. And so I just want to thank the panel for agreeing to be on this. As you can see, we have Miss Patricia Gonzalez, the Dean of Scholar Support at Jack Kent Cooke. Thank you very much. Ama Appenteng, a Program Director at Center for Companies That Care, and Craig Lynch, the CEO of Youth and Opportunity United. My name is Keith Terry, And what I'd like to do before we go is for all those folks who participate and hear our webinars, the Paul W. Caine Foundation is a non-for-profit organization associated with Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. And so we are, I'm on the board, and we don't do this for free. And if you want to support our efforts and donate to us, you can do so by visiting our website at www.paulwcainefoundation.org. I give this pitch because the board is incredibly concerned about what's happening in the community, and we put these educational events out because we want to educate. And so educate the public. I just want to again thank our panel, Patricia, Ama, and Craig, for giving up your Saturday. You could be anywhere, but you decided to be here. And so I just wanted to just thank the panel. This was delightful for me. And I'll just say this, that I learned a lot. And I hope the listening public learns a lot. If you want their contact information, please reach out to me. They're busy people. And hopefully, you can get your kids to college and success. So I just wanted to thank you all. You all have a great Saturday, and go watch some March Madness, and we'll talk to you later. All right. Thanks, panel.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.